guys, welcome back to my channel. Very fun drugstore video for you guys today. I have quite a few drugstore videos planned this month and we're kicking it off today with $50 worth of new drugstore makeup that we're going to be trying out. Today's rendition comes from Walmart. I made a trip to my local Walmart and found some really interesting products. Some of these were brand new, a brand new brand to my Walmart, including a $5 foundation. Yes, this foundation on my face today was just $5. And so far I'm pretty impressed. We're going to try it all on together today. I'll of course share with you guys how much everything costs individually. And then we're gonna do a wear test at the end of the day and see how everything wore. Hope you guys are excited. I'm excited to show you guys some of these products. I have a feeling I found some major wins. Before we get into the makeup, a very special welcome to my new visitors here. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please consider subscribing before you leave. Also, make sure those notifications are turned on. And with that said, we do have a lot of makeup to put on, so let's get right to it. Okay, so I have everything here in front of me. I even have my little Walmart receipt right here, so I'll let you guys know how much everything was. I ended up spending a total of $55.96, a little bit over $50. I was kind of just shooting for $50, but I picked up so many things. I think the only things that aren't going to be covered with new products are my mascara and my concealer. Maybe my eyeliner if I decide to use one. Let's start with the foundation. So they had a new little section up in my Walmart for Makeup Revolution. I've never seen Makeup Revolution there before. These products, there weren't very many of them and they looked a lot cheaper and actually were a lot cheaper than what I'm used to seeing from Makeup Revolution on like Ulta's website. So this is what I picked up. This is their Super Serum Hyaluronic Acid Serum Foundation. This stuff was only $4.98. That is so cheap. I don't have very high expectations of this thing, but at that price, I just had to try it. I want to say there were only like 5 shades available there. I mean, the section that they offered was very, very small. That is one thing I've noticed with Walmart's makeup section. It's different depending on which Walmart you go to. They have different products, they have different brands offered. Some I think are better than others, and mine, I'll be honest, is not great. So here is a little dollop of it. Shade match, I think this might work for me. It does look a little bit peachy in tone, or kind of like a pink base, which I don't usually love, but let's go ahead and try it and see how it works. It kind of smells weird. It has a hint of the smell of like a chlorinated pool, very subtly, which I can't imagine is probably very good for my skin, but that's okay. So that was one dollop. I feel like my sponge soaked most of that product up because it is pretty liquidy. I think I'm gonna go in with one more for the other side. I'm actually pretty impressed with the coverage though. Covered up my little spot here pretty nicely. And the shade match seems to be all right for now. We'll see how it dries down. I always pay attention when I put foundation on the back of my hand first, if it starts to oxidize on the back of my hand. This does seem like it's kind of turning a little bit kind of purpley pink. All right, one more little dollop on this side. Okay, I'm actually kind of liking this so far. And it feels pretty nice. It is pretty, you know what this feels like on my skin, just based on kind of how it's like feeling and sitting and how it is to the touch before being set down with powder, is kind of like the L'Oreal Serum Foundation. It kind of feels a bit like that. And I really love that foundation. Let's set it down with just a little bit of powder. I'm gonna take my Rimmel Stay Matte powder. I almost bought a new one of these yesterday, but I didn't want to be too far over $50, so I figure I'd give this one another couple weeks. Before I powder it down, we need to add some concealer. I don't have a new one. We're just gonna take my NYX Bare With Me Serum Concealer. I use the shade Vanilla. So I'm just gonna take this on the back of that sponge and just kind of apply it where I need a little bit more coverage. And also on my eyelid to get ready for the eye products that we'll be using today. Okay, now let's set that down with a little bit of my Rimmel Stay Matte. Just some on the eyelids. A little bit across the center of the forehead, between my brows, and along the sides of my mouth. And then a tiny bit more on both of these little spots, just to hopefully get that concealer to stay in place. I usually don't like to powder my cheeks, but if I have some extra stuff to cover, I'll sometimes do that. Okay, let's move on to this palette. This is from Milani. This is the Milani All-Inclusive Eye, Cheek, and Face palette. I got the light medium version. I wanted to get the Luminoso palette from them. It's a new release. They had a display at my Walmart, but when I opened up that little palette, the shadows inside were so incredibly tiny. They were about the size of my pinky fingernail. I just was kind of annoyed by that. And they didn't have a price tag on them, which is always kind of a red flag to me. So I decided to go with this one instead. It gives you some eyeshadows and also some face products. You get 2 blushes, a matte and a shimmer, a highlighter and a bronzer. So I thought we could use this today all over my face and on my eyes. And then I have one other liquid shadow we're gonna use for the eyes. So let's start with the bronzer. I'm gonna take that on my Sydney Grace powder brush. I'll also insert for you guys right here a close-up of this palette swatched on my arm. Hopefully those swatches will show up. It's kind of a neutral color story. It's not super bold. I don't think I own a Milani bronzer anymore. I think I decluttered my Silky Matte bronzer. I intended to go back and get shade number 2 in the Silky Matte bronzer because I've heard a couple of you recommend if number 1 was too light to go back and try shade number 2. But I haven't done that yet. I did like the formula of that bronzer. I just had a hard time getting that shade to show up on me. This one seems pretty warm. I'm not sure I'm loving the shade of this one. It does, I don't know if you're seeing that, it's pulling just a little bit more orange than I like. I probably wouldn't mind that as much if I had a little bit more sun on my face, a little bit more of a tan. But it just seems to look a little bit orange on me right now. Yeah, I'm not wild about that. Darn it. That's too bad because I was kind of hoping that this would be a good travel option. I don't think I have a palette that has both eyes and cheek products in it. I considered picking up the Natasha Denona one. I think she's come out with a couple of those. They're just so pricey. I just haven't been able to bite the bullet and purchase one of those. Okay, let's try the blush out. I don't hate it. I just feel like it's a little bit more orange than I typically like to go. But I do want to try this blush right here. We'll start with the matte and then we might pop a little bit of the shimmer shade on top. For that, I'm going to take my Rougher number 5 brush. I was a little bit nervous about these pan sizes for face products being too small, but they're actually just right. My bronzer and my blush brush both fit in there nicely, so that's good. Okay, that's pretty. I do like that blush a lot. That's pretty. I definitely don't need to add the shimmer on top, but let's just give it a try. I'm just gonna kind of put it like right back here. I wanna try and keep it away from this blemish right there, but I'm just curious to see how this looks on top. Let's go like right there with it. Let me just live swatch it for you guys so you can kind of see the level of sheen. Looks a lot more shimmery in the pan than it is on the hand. I mean, it's shimmery, but it's not like eyeshadow shimmery level. Those are pretty pigmented. I'm gonna go back and just kind of tap those out a little bit. That's my husband pouring salt in our water softener. Jeez, that's loud. That actually looks really, really pretty. And I like that bronzer more now that the pink blush is on top of it. I feel like it toned it down a little bit. Now let's add some of the highlighter in this palette. I did swatch this. Let me actually live swatch it for you guys. I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see this, but I didn't love the live swatch of it. It seemed a little bit too peachy and dark and also a little kind of chalky, but we'll see how it looks on the cheeks. Give it a chance first. Just didn't swatch like a highlighter shade that I know that I love. I'm gonna put quite a bit on my lips because we're gonna top my lips with something matte. So I like having some shimmer underneath, even though I know that it looks a little weird. All right, now let's try a little bit of this on the cheeks. Add a little bit to my brow bone too. It's not as dark as I was thinking that it might be. It is quite gold in tone. If you have more fair skin than me, it's probably gonna be too dark for you. It's just not the smoothest highlighter. It's pretty and reflective, but it does emphasize texture. I mean, all highlighters emphasize texture, but some do more than others. And this seems like one that really does show the texture on your skin. I don't hate it. I just don't know that I love it. Okay, before we get to the eyeshadows, I have some new things for the brows. First off, this right here, also from that Makeup Revolution brand. I think it's just called Revolution by Makeup Revolution. They're one of those brands that confuses me a little bit. I kind of feel like they're like the brands like, you know how you have Old Navy and then Gap and then Banana Republic. This, however, was so incredibly affordable. I think this was only $1.98. No, $2.98 for a slim brow pencil. It's called their Micro Blade Brow. I got the shade brown. They only had 2 shades there, a brown and I think a black or something like black. That reminds me, I forgot to tell you guys how much I paid for the Milani palette. This thing was a little bit pricey. It was $14.97. All right, so here is the spoolie. Here is the pencil itself. I'm gonna insert a close-up for you guys right here. This is interesting. It's kind of a rectangular shape, but it's it's pretty small, but it's not a round shape. It's more of a rectangular kind of shape. I don't know that I've ever seen a shape quite like this. Let's give it a little swatch. Okay, I like the shade. It is a little bit dark, but it's nice and ashy and it goes on really, really fine. So hopefully I can get this to work pretty well for me. They also had a soap brow there that I almost picked up, but I decided to go with a brow gel from NYX. So we have 2 brow products we'll be testing out today. I don't want to go too heavy with this because the brow gel that I picked up from NYX is tinted. So how many of you guys shop for your drugstore makeup at Walmart regularly? I usually do. Not necessarily by choice. I have a Walmart literally like a mile or 2 away from my house. So it's the closest drugstore. I live in a very small town. I wish we had a Target. I would prefer to shop at Target. I think they have a better makeup selection, but my Target is like 35 minutes away from me. So I just don't go to Target super often. Speaking of Walmart, when we were in California about a month ago, we stopped at a Walmart, I think in Orange County somewhere, and it was like the nicest Walmart I had ever been in. We actually stopped there just to pick up some sunscreen, but I had to walk by their makeup department though, and they had so many brands I had not seen. Everything was like stocked. Everything was clean and neat. My Walmart does not look like that. Everything's out of stock. It's always kind of messy. Not the fanciest, classiest place to buy your makeup, but man, their prices are so, so good. Okay, I actually really like this pencil. I like the stiffness of it. It's a little on the dark side, but not too dark. Like I don't think it's too dark for me if I'm going for that kind of a look. And I love the shape and consistency of this. Very impressed with that. For $2.98, not bad. We're gonna add some brow gel. I got this one from NYX. This is the brow glue from NYX. I think this has been around for a while. I've seen it there before. I got the shade Taupe. Hopefully this will be a decent match. Ooh, match for me. Okay, this stuff kind of reminds me, just the way it's coming out of the tube, reminds me of my Barrage Brow Fixer from Etude House. It's kind of like a sticky sort of gel. Let me give it a little swatch on the back of my hand. So there it is right there. That looks like a really good shade. It's semi-clear, which I actually like that it's not totally clear, but also not totally tinted. It is a little bit more tinted than my Etude House brow gel. I carefully let that set down and dry down, and then I'll give you guys an update on how stiff it feels. Okay guys, brows are finished. They're a little bit bold today, but I kind of like them. I like that brow gel. Let's jump back over to that eyeshadow palette. Not wild about the color story in here. I mean, you just get 3 shades, but I feel like if you're just going to include 3 shades, I would love to have a little more differential between the 3 tones. Like I feel like they're all kind of mid-tones. I wish this one was just a little bit darker. I think these 2 are too similar to each other, but that's just me. I'm very set in my ways in the type of shadows that I like to dip for in an eyeshadow look. So let's start off in this light pink shade right here. I was tempted to pick up, they had I think a smoky version of this palette that had like a black, a silver, and then a creamy matte shade in it. I actually really like the face shades in that one. Maybe even a little bit better. I think the bronzer in that one was a little bit more of a contour, but I just don't typically like charcoaly grays on my eyes. I just don't think they look very good on me. Let me know if you guys picked up the Luminoso palette, if you ended up liking it, if the shade sizes bothered you. I also didn't really love the color range. I kind of felt like, again, kind of like these 3 shades, a lot of them were very similar to each other. There wasn't a lot of differential from light to dark, which I think there were like 9 shades in that palette, so I just wasn't that wowed by it. Okay, now we're gonna go in with a different blending brush. This one's kind of angled. We're gonna run a little bit of that same shade under the outer half of the lower lash line. Okay, actually let me zoom you guys in just a little bit more. I always forget to do that. Now let's jump over to this shade right here. So you can see these aren't that different from each other. Obviously this one's a little bit deeper. Hopefully it goes on deeper than it looks in the pan. These pinks are definitely very, very warm. So just be aware of that. If you like your cool tones, you might want to stick, and you're interested in this palette, you might want to stick with the smoky eye palette. In fact, I think I mentioned I was going to use my warmth scale anytime I review an eyeshadow palette. I would say this one is like an 8. It's pretty warm. I mean, these shadows are very, very warm, especially this one. Kind of orangey, which I don't mind. I don't mind a little bit of orange on my eyes, but if you don't like things that pull kind of orange, this one definitely does. Okay, now let's dip into the shimmer. This looks like a pink with some gold sparkles in it. Okay, it's kind of like a mid-tone pink. So I'm gonna put this all over the center of the lid. I'm gonna leave the inner corner open because I do have a liquid shadow that I wanna try out on the inner part of the lid. So this is just gonna go in the center. Very dry feeling formula, but it's pretty pigmented. There we go. I'm gonna go back to that small blending brush. I just wanna blend around this edge right here. Now let's move on to the inner corner. So this is also from the Revolution by Makeup Revolution brand. This is the Eye Light Liquid Shadow. I picked up the shade Lights Up, which looks like kind of a shimmery bright shell pink. Let me just give it a little swatch for you guys. Ooh, it's pretty. It's more golden than I was thinking it would be. I was thinking this might even be a little bit cool tone, but it's a little bit on the warm side. Very, very reflective and icy, which I always like to see. I'm just gonna take a little bit of that on my finger and tap this on the inner part of the lid. It does dry pretty fast. I think this one dries even faster than my Sydney Grace shadows dry. Those ones give you a few seconds to work with them. Not bad. I'm not sure it has like the punch that my Sydney Grace have, but I don't dislike it. Okay, so there we have it. So I just wanted to show you guys, I tried to go back in on this side with a second layer. Do you see how it kind of is like crackly? Like it kind of cracked it up a little bit. I would definitely recommend going in with just one layer. I think it looks a lot better. It's not very buildable. That can often happen with liquid shadows, but I wanted to show you how those look slightly different. This one you can just see how it kind of, some of the texture kind of cracked up. Doesn't look quite as smooth as the other side. All right, but that's gonna do it for the eyes. I actually think they look really pretty. I'm just gonna add a little bit of wing liner with my Wet n Wild liner pencil. Okay, now I'm gonna add a couple coats of mascara. I'm gonna use my Ulta Beauty mascara today, then I'll zoom you guys out and we'll finish off with some products for the lips. And here we are so far. What do you guys think? I think the eyes turned out really nice. I like this kind of warm pink look. I think it's really flattering if you're into your warm tones. I think you probably like these shades. And I'm pretty impressed with that liquid shadow. Not the best one I've ever tried, but it's really reflective and sparkly. It feels like it's set down really well, so I have a feeling this probably won't budge. Oh, I wanted to give you an update on the brows. These are nice. Like they're kind of crunchy, but not too crunchy, if you know what I mean. You can tell that they're set in place, but they're not obnoxiously like firm. Okay, I have two more things that are new. This is from Revlon. I picked up one of their Color Stay Matte Light crayons. This one is in the shade Take Flight. It's kind of a mauve-y pink tone. Ooh, it smells yummy. Very vanilla. There's one check in my positives box. I love a good scented lip product. So there's the color right there, kind of like a mid-tone mauve pink. So I'm gonna just start applying this kind of as I would a lip liner. I think these are supposed to be pretty long wearing. Actually, I'm gonna kind of blend this out and then let it set down, and then we'll come back to it and see how budge proof it is. I'm gonna kind of use my finger to blend that in a little. It's a really pretty shade. I think if I built it up a little bit more, it'd be a little bit darker, but I didn't want it to be too dark. So I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm gonna actually go back over to this right here, this highlighter. I do have a gloss that we're gonna try, but before I put the gloss on, because the gloss is kind of clear, I wanna add just a little bit of this to the center of the lips to kind of brighten it up there. By the way, the Revlon lip, this was one of the more expensive things that I picked up. It was $9.44. So the lip gloss I picked up is from CoverGirl. I have to be honest, guys, CoverGirl is probably my least favorite brand at the drugstore. I'm never that interested in products that they release. I don't know what it is. Something about their marketing and packaging. I've had some misses from them in the past, so I overlook a lot of their products. I've heard some buzz about this though, and I wanted to try it. It's the Yum Gloss. This one was $7.98. I picked up the peach version. This looks really interesting. It's kind of like milky looking inside, and there is a ton of product in here, which I was happy to see. 0.33 ounces. That is a lot. That's more than my Fenty gloss has in it. So let's give this a try. Let's give it a smell first. It smells good. It smells like Garnier Fructis, but for your lips. Hopefully it has some sugar in it. Okay, that's surprisingly delicious. It's not very sweet, but there's like the tiniest hint of sweetness to it, which I don't know why I always feel the need to tell you guys what my lip products taste like, but I don't like when they taste bad, and this one doesn't taste bad, and it smells really delicious. And I love how that looks. It's not the glossiest looking lip gloss, but this is very comfortable. Like it feels very balmy. I'm pleasantly surprised by that. Really pretty lip, not bad. Okay, I think this is everything, you guys. One thing real quick, I wanted to come back to that swatch. So it has set down, like it still has a little bit of creaminess to it, but you can see that that's not completely rubbing off. So hopefully this will be a little bit long wearing on me. In fact, why don't we do a check-in at the end of the day? Right now, it's not super early. It's 1:15 right now. I'll come back in 8 hours and give you guys an update on how everything is looking, let you know how the serum foundation wore. So far, it looks really nice. It didn't oxidize badly. I feel like the shade match is pretty good. By the way, I don't think I told you guys what shade I went with. This is shade number 6. So pretty impressed with that. I'm loving my brows today. I think the eyeshadows look great, and even the cheek products, which individually I did not think looked amazing other than the blush. Altogether, I feel like they look really nice. The gloss I'm really excited about. I'm now curious what some of the other ones, like how yummy they were. This one's pretty yummy, but so that's everything for now. I'm gonna come back in about 7 or 8 hours, probably like 8:30 tonight, and I'll give you guys an update on how everything's looking. All right, it is 10:10 at night. Went a little bit longer than I was expecting to, but this is how things are looking. Not terrible. I do think that some of the coverage has worn off on the foundation, but surprisingly, I think it looks pretty decent. Not a lot of settling in my lines on my forehead. I think a lot of it's worn off around my nose over some of these spots. I think a lot of that coverage has kind of gone away, but I was pretty impressed with this. Looking at my skin in the mirror later in the evening, I thought it still looked pretty good. My lips obviously have nothing on them right now. I want to go back and add a little bit more of the gloss. The lip crayon, I don't think lasted super long. I wouldn't call this like super long wearing. I did eat lunch shortly after I applied this morning and found that it wore off after my lunch. So not the most long wearing. I'm probably not very likely to use this a lot. I typically just don't use lip crayons very often. I am pretty impressed with the lip gloss though. I'm actually really excited about this lip gloss. I'm gonna apply a little bit more right now because my lips are dry, and this is super comfortable. Feels much more balmy than glossy, and it smells amazing. My brows, I think, look really good. I'm very happy with both of these brow products. As for the Milani palette, I don't think it's bad. I think the eyes look okay. I think my cheeks look okay. Not really wild about them, but I don't think they look terrible. And lastly, I'm pretty impressed with the liquid shadow. I was a little bit nervous about this one. I had a swatch on the back of my hand, and I noticed after about an hour that it kind of crumbled off. So I'm surprised that it's holding up pretty well on my actual eyes. I still wouldn't say this is as good quality as my Sydney Grace shadows or as impactful, but considering it was only like $2 or $3, I don't think it's terrible. So that is pretty much it. I think this was pretty successful $50 spent at Walmart. I'll keep playing with this stuff, get to know it a little bit better, and come back and update you guys. But so far, so good. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you guys have tried any of these products before. Have you guys heard of this serum foundation? I had never heard of this one before. Any feedback I would love to hear down below. Thank you guys again. Hope we're all doing well, and I will see you all very soon in my next video. Bye.